Next item up is ordinances. Ordinance prohibiting aggressive and unsafe panhandling within the corporate city limits of Yuba City, presented by Chief Rob Landon.
Good evening, Mayor Gill, Vice Mayor Dukes, council members. We're here today to introduce an ordinance prohibiting aggressive and unsafe panhandling within the corporate city limits of Yuba City, as the mayor just described. I want to first of all start out with the purpose of why we're doing this. The purpose and intent of introducing an ordinance prohibiting aggressive and unsafe panhandling is to protect the safety and welfare of the general public and improve the quality of life and economic vitality of the city of the Yuba City by imposing reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on aggressive, intrusive, or unsafe panhandling while respecting the constitutional rights of everybody. So historically, the right to solicit donations, whether for oneself or for others, is constitutionally protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. The city of Yuba City has experienced a marked increase in the amount of persons soliciting donations throughout the city. We've had an increase of numerous complaints from businesses and private citizens about unsafe practices of the person soliciting, to include numerous complaints of aggressive and intrusive solicitation. Staff, along with City Council, researched several ordinances throughout Northern California area, which had experienced similar problems with aggressive and unsafe panhandling. We looked at, we took the best parts out of certain ones, and we found there's a lot of local places that have done it. Roseville, Sacramento, Santa Cruz, the County of Sacramento, just a lot of different ordinances that we were able to glean their information from. The city attorney also researched recent case laws that are similar in content during the course of preparing the proposed ordinances to look at the stumbling blocks that have been faced. Courts have upheld ordinances that put limitations on certain acts of solicitation or panhandling where the regulations are narrowly tailored to address problems so long as the ordinance does not ban all opportunities for solicitation. The courts have also struck down a number of panhandling ordinances that went too far and attempted to regulate what the court determined was protected speech. So we're trying to strike a balance between that with our ordinance. We feel the current proposed ordinance is timely and appropriate because current laws and city regulations are insufficient to address the aforementioned problems. The restrictions contained in the proposed ordinance are neither overbroad nor vague, and they are narrowly tailored to serve a substantial government interest. The goal of this law is to protect citizens from the fear and intimidation accompanying certain kinds of panhandling that have become an unwelcome presence in the city, and to protect the safety of the general public. So I'm going to go through the ordinance itself instead of reading all the wherefores and whyas and stuff. First of all, there's two different parts of this. There's the unsafe, and then there's the aggressive panhandling. All panhandling is no person shall panhandle in an aggressive and intrusive manner in any public place. And we have a specific definition in here of what constitutes aggressive and intrusive panhandling. It's conduct intended to likely to cause a reasonable person to fear bodily harm to oneself or another, to fear damage to or loss of property, or otherwise to be intimidated into giving money or other thing of value. Intentionally touching or causing physical contact with another person or an unoccupied vehicle without that person's consent. Persisting and closely following or approaching a person after the person has informed a panhandler that such person does not want to be panhandled or does not want to give them money or any other thing of value to the panhandler. Using violent or threatening gestures towards a person, or using profane, offensive, or abusive language that is inherently likely to provoke immediate action either before, during, or after panhandling. So that's one part of it. That's the aggressive or the intrusive panhandling. And then we go into the areas of unsafe panhandling. First, we have financial institutions and automated teller machines. You're basically in a close, confined area, and you obviously are getting cash out that can create issues and make you feel uncomfortable. Motor vehicles, no person shall panhandle from an operator or occupant traveling in a motor vehicle while such vehicle is located within 100 feet of any intersection in which at least one corner is controlled by an official traffic signal of the type set forth California Vehicle Code 21450, which is basically a stoplight. So you can't panhandle within 100 feet. The reasoning behind that is you're obstructing traffic, you're detracting from what the driver's responsibility is, which is to maintain safe driving, and you're also doing it at a place where there's pedestrians likely to cross and come into contact. So if you're not paying attention, similar to what texting is, you're getting your attention away from what the driver's supposed to be doing. Medium strips, although we're covering that, that's also covered in the California Vehicle Code. No person shall panhandle on a median strip in any manner or location that is inconsistent with the provisions of California Vehicle Code. Driveways accessing shopping centers, retail, and business establishments. No person shall panhandle from an operator or occupant traveling in a motor vehicle while such vehicle is located within 35 feet of a driveway providing vehicular access to a shopping center, retail, or business establishments. I'm sure if you guys drive through Walmart or some of the other locations that have people waving their signs right by an intersection, it's detracting from what they're trying to do again, and you can't see people coming or going. You can't see traffic coming or going. You have a primary responsibility when you are a driver, and that's to drive that vehicle safely. Public transportation vehicles and stops. No person shall panhandle in any public transportation vehicle or within 50 feet of any designated or posted public transportation vehicle stop. Again, what's happening with that in gasoline stations and fuel pumps, which are covered, is you're talking to a captured audience. This person isn't allowed to leave. He's there for one reason, which is to get from his destination to the next. So he or she should not have to be part of that. Same with the gas station. You're there for one reason, which is to get your gas and to be stopped while you can't leave and you can't walk away. Again, that restricts their constitutional rights. No person shall panhandle in any place after dark. And this section is not violated if a person who is panhandling is doing so on private property that is open to the public and with the express authorization of the owner, manager, or supervisor at the business operating at the property. And then for the first infraction, or first the penalty for any of these infraction or ordinance violations is an infraction. The second or subsequent ones in a 6-month period shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. With that, I will turn it over to the mayor for the public hearing.
Any questions for the chief from the council members?
Yeah, I got a couple through the mayor. How obviously you've done the research and this is enforceable. The penalties seem like a slap on the hand. What do we have? Somebody gets their hand slapped once, then what's going to happen?
The first one is an infraction. The second and subsequent ones is misdemeanors, which can be dealt with time in jail.
Really? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for a public hearing, and anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item, I can do so by going to the podium and stating your name.
Hello, my name is Garrett Chissy. I live at 1819 Cleo Court here in Yuba City. I'm the manager. My boss, Bill Fortner's business on Plymouth Street. We're a member of the Downtown Business Association, Twin Rivers Polaris. We wanted to come show our support of this ordinance. It's everybody who's been downtown has experienced this. It's pretty obvious. Nobody's really, I think, real floored by this. It's kind of a shame, I think, because we've spent so much money in improving that downtown area over the past few years. We've partaked in the some of the money and the funds that you guys have made available for us. But on the other side, I think there's a greater issue here with the vagrants, and I think that needs to be addressed as well. And I think we need to bring up another ordinance as well with that. For us, we felt it was a big issue is the school. There's a school across the street. I can tell you, almost on a monthly basis, I see somebody nude close to a school inside of these children. I see drugs. I see people yelling at people. I see people fighting. I see people beating women. I have to break up fights. I have to do all these things. And it's right inside of a school, which is, to me, a big thing for this community. On a personal level, it affects my business every day. I'm talking to a customer about a large purchase, and somebody comes up and either panhandles them or just harasses them, touches them, steals from them. It's becoming a huge issue for us. I have a couple examples here. I mean, people just talking to themselves, my employees getting things stolen. I put a surveillance system up to try to help prevent things like this happening, and my cameras are stolen off the walls. I mean, it's ridiculous. Another thing I think needs to be brought up is there's a nice piece of property the city owns. Allowed to keep going? How's this work? Okay. Oh. Thank you. So there's a large piece of property the city owns. I think it's on the corner of Shasta and Bridge Street. Great piece of property. There's been talk of doing stuff with it for years. And I think any business person, I know from my perspective, I'm a young punk kid here, but from my perspective, I think you'd be crazy to do something like that. I think I'd be crazy to invest a lot of money in a place like that, because why would I want to do that when I'm going to have my customers? I've had customers tell me, I'm not coming back because of what's happened at your business, because of these people coming by and harassing me, stealing from me. I've had employees, I've had to compensate employees because of this, because they've got things stolen, and I've seen it on camera happen. It's becoming a huge issue, and I think it needs to be addressed sooner than later. I get to keep going. This is just,
Yeah, if you can wrap it up.
yeah,
that'd be
I'm
great.
pretty much done. I
Great.
did bring some pictures for you guys,
Okay.
in case you'd like to see.
Absolutely.
A couple
Yeah.
pictures
I'll
of
just hand them over to Terrell, and she'll pass them over to us.
some pictures that I brought a couple. I didn't want to go too crazy, but kind of give you guys an idea of some of the stuff we see on a daily basis. I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys'
Yeah,
time.
thank you very much. Anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on this item? Mr. Jimerson?
Thank you. Rick Jimerson, Oswald Road. And on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I'm wanting to thank all of you for consideration on this ordinance. It's a much needed ordinance. As you've just heard, it could be expanded, perhaps, to do a little bit more. But we're very happy as not only business people within the community, but as citizens of the community to know that you're working and moving forward on addressing an issue that really needs to be taken care of. So just on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jimerson. Anyone else? Cindy, come on up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hi there, I'm Cindy Payne, 675 Almond Street, Yuba City. We own two businesses downtown, Jerry's Stereo and the Tea Garden House. I agree completely with what Garrett says. We really do appreciate that you guys are working on an ordinance, but we do need an additional ordinance of some type for the vagrants. It's getting really bad. A lot of business or people are getting scared off. If you walk down Plymouth Street, it's kind of, you never know who you're going to see. It kind of scares people off that if they're going into Cash's place or Fotine's place to have lunch or buy something, and you have people following you or they're talking to themselves out loud. And I mean, I totally understand homelessness and mental illness more than a lot of people do, and I have empathy for them, but we need to be more aggressive, maybe try to find somewhere, work with some of these churches or organizations to find somewhere for them to be other than our area downtown, or any business area, not just downtown, but that's where the city spent a lot of money. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Thank you. Miles.
Miles Johnson, 322 North Oliver Drive, Yuba City. Honorable Mayor, members of council. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for the chief in putting together such a comprehensive document. Tonight, I'm representing the Yuba Sutter Homeless Consortium. We had an opportunity to review the document, and based on discussions I've had with the board, there was nothing really glaring that really struck out at the board. So given that, I think the board is in support of this document. But I was cautioned to share that with any policy, where the tire meets the road is the implementation. And as you implement this policy, the board wanted me to share with you to understand that you're still dealing with someone's son, a daughter, cousin, or friend, and the humanity that comes along with being a part of this community. Now, taking that hat off and putting on my citizen hat, I noticed that when I was reading through the policy, that it didn't differentiate between aggressive panhandling and, say, for instance, like I don't know, Girl Scouts or cheerleader squad, or even the fire department collecting money. Explain to me, or if you can, how because to me that this ordinance is really put restrictions on all of that behavior.
Miles, what we'll do is we'll take all the questions, and if there's additional questions later on, then we'll get Chief to answer them all at one point in time versus going back and forth. Is there anybody else from the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Okay,
There you go. Chief's up.
Chief, you're up.
I appreciate hearing all the different perspectives. It does, and we are very aware of the fact that we are dealing with people's sons and families, so we always take that to heart, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Miles. You want me to address the question that Mr. Johnson had?
Yes, please.
The question about the charities, right now it doesn't differentiate between them because we are talking about unsafe practices. When we're talking about being by a roadway, when we're talking about at the entrance of a shopping center, it doesn't differentiate between a charity and a panhandler. And there's a couple reasons why we didn't specifically address that. Number one, there's currently a case going in front of the, actually I don't know who it's going in front of, but it's the ACLU is challenging the county of Sacramento. And the reason they did that because they made an exclusion for the charity. So at this point in time, we feel it's prudent not to separate them until we have a final court decision back on the Sacramento decision.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment and bring it back to the council for their comments and discussions.
To the mayor, I'd like to propose the recommendation.
Okay, I'm sure we got a couple of comments, but let's get a motion.
I'll second
A
it.
second. We have additional comments?
Through the mayor.
Yes.
I think that the ordinance is a starting point for our community to start addressing an issue, as Miles said, that does affect a number of different families within our community. These are someone's either parent, children, but we do have individuals that come to Yuba City expressly for extra services. We hear and talk to individuals that have come here from the Bay Area because there is aggressive enforcement that occurs in the Bay Area. San Jose, I've talked to a gentleman from San Jose that showed up here and is actually living down in the river bottoms just to the south of Yuba City, and came here because he had heard through the homeless grapevine. And I would caution the use of the word homeless because this person appeared to be more of a vagrant than a homeless individual. Constantly intoxicated, using drugs. The mental illness is probably was driven I'm not an expert at mental illness, but I'm certain it's probably driven somewhat from the drug use that this person goes through. Homelessness and vagrancy, I think, need to be continually separated within our community. We need to address the crime-ridden vagrancy. We need to be more aggressive in that, especially in our downtown area. Our businesses are, there's a constant issue with sanitation for businesses. What people do in doorways is unspeakable. What people do on walls, what people do behind and in alleys is a disgrace to our community, and we need to address that. There are a number of cities that have effective programs. San Antonio, Texas, Raleigh, and Portland all have pieces that I think we need to continue to look at, and we will continue to look at to once again follow this first step. I think that the implementation, the plan that has been set forward is good. I think the enforcement is going to be key to what we're seeing currently. And I do think that as a community, this is a giving community, and that has created some of the problems that happen and continue to be promoted through those. I know that the Twin City, the Polaris dealership sits right next to a feeding program. This is an area that constantly has 150, 160 people showing up twice a week for lunches. It's a great concept. It's the wrong part of our city. And I think we need to continue to address that. And if they live in the river, or they live by the river bottom area, we need to locate their feeding grounds to a different location than in the middle of our city, where they continue to prey on the citizens that continually try to support our downtown area. I support this from the standpoint that I think it's a first step.
I agree with that. First of all, Chief, thank you very much for bringing this ordinance to the council. You got to remember that this is the first ordinance. We didn't have an ordinance prior to this being written, so you can't enforce something that you don't have. This may not be the perfect ordinance at this point in time, but it's a great ordinance to get the ball rolling. This is a great first step for this particular ordinance. Now that there's an ordinance in place, obviously now you can impose fines and penalties to do this. And moving forward, you can build upon this ordinance with input from the community as the needs go forward. So great job to you, Chief, for putting this together.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments from the council members? If not,
I would just say I'm just in agreement with Councilman Buckland saying it's we all feel for the people. I mean, as Miles said, they're human beings, and it's a tough issue we face all over the world and all over the country. But we've done businesses are doing a lot to make their places nice and making them welcoming. And when you have something like that going on in front of your business or next door to you, it makes it difficult. And I think feeding sites, they create a lot of problems. You see it in Sacramento, you see it in San Francisco, and we're seeing it on Plymouth Street. The sites really, the churches are doing trying to do a good job, but I think if we could locate those, possibly going over to the river bottoms and feeding there, that would go a long way. I think this is a great attempt, try, and Police Chief did a great job coming up with this, and I think it's going to be fine tuning. And let's give this a try and improve upon this.
wonderful. I've got a motion and a second.
Through the
You wanna
mayor.
comment?
I'd
Yes.
just like to make a comment also. Councilmember Buckland made a comment regarding the difference between homeless and vagrancy, and I think that this, yes, is a good first step, and I think that we need to further define what that means in our community and what this community is willing to stand behind. And I think most of us on the council would agree that helping people that are truly homeless and need a hand up are willing to do that, but vagrancy is something that we are not going to support and enable in this community. And so this is the first step towards getting to that and identifying what those individuals, what that looks like in our community and how we want to handle this. So thank you.
And I don't possibly think I could add anything more than these fine gentlemen have said, so I'll call for the question.
Wonderful. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Next